How would you describe yourself? What are you good at? What are you terrible at? Are you a math person, a writer, or just not an academic? Not a sporty person? So often we describe ourselves by limiting our possibilities, and our teens are no different. They limit their future and their present by not seeing the opportunities for growth. But surely we can't all be physicists. Well, you're probably right there. But that doesn't mean we can't all learn. We have amazing brains. And today we're here to talk about brain plasticity and how we can change our brains and our students' brains. We so often underestimate what our brains can do. So first of all, I want to share about some research into brain plasticity. And you've probably heard about this. Neuroplasticity is also known as brain plasticity. So it could be defined as the ability of the nervous system to change its activity in response to an intrinsic or extrinsic stimuli by reorganizing its structure, function, or connections. That just means that our brain can take the stimulus that we give it and it can change itself. It can change its structure, its organization, and we can change the outcomes based on how our brain is wired. And just to clear up any confusion, plastic just means that something is moldable. So our brains are moldable. We all know this instinctively about toddlers and young children. We know that their brains are moldable, that the environment we raise young children in and the experiences that they will have construct their brains and their expectations of the world. Why do we think that ends? Why don't we continue to work with this presumption? As early as 1890, Santiago Ramon y Cajal was studying the idea that the capacity of the brain could be augmented by increasing the number of neural connections. Flash forward to today. We now know that our brains can change and adapt, can reorganize and grow neural networks based on our experience. So how can we use neuroplasticity to our advantage? Maybe you're feeling stuck. Maybe you feel that your student is stuck. What about anxious thoughts, negative self-talk, concentration difficulties, procrastination, being afraid to learn to write, or to do math, or to be wrong? All of these things are things that we can change in our brain by making new neural pathways. Here are a few examples of feelings and behaviors that can be hard to break, like an endless cycle. So we often blame our brains. All of those anxious thoughts. The way we tell ourselves we just can't do it, or we shouldn't expect anything better. The way that we allow ourselves to procrastinate. But we have learned we can change our brain. How can we do this? How can we grow our brain? Here is the most valuable thing I want to leave with you today. The more you trigger a pathway in your brain, the stronger it will get. And the less you trigger a pathway, the weaker it will get. So very simply, the more often you think something, the more often that you do something, the more often that you make an error, or the more often you do something correctly, that is the pathway that's going to be strengthened in your brain. So if we're talking about writing, it's really important that we spread out that writing over the week, especially if our student is struggling with nervousness, fear, procrastination. They need to come back to it again and again and again to face that fear, that procrastination, show self-discipline. Sitting down and doing the entire thing at once looks great. But if you really want to work on neural pathways, you want to do a little bit and do it often. You want to run that pathway again and again to strengthen it. We can create new thinking pathways. we can catch those negative and self-defeating self-talk, things that run through our mind all of the time, and we can replace it with growth thinking. We can stop those thoughts that say, I'm just not a writer. I'm no good at this. I'm going to fail anyway. This probably isn't good enough. We can catch those and we can replace them with, I'm getting there. I'm getting better every day. I'm someone who keeps on trying. Those are the kinds of thoughts that if we repeat them again and again and again, we're creating those neural pathways. But if we're continually running negative thoughts through our brain, we're strengthening those pathways. Another great advantage is exercise. Exercise triggers a chemical called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and this improves neuroplasticity. So stopping to get moving throughout the day, again and again, is a great idea. Taking action breaks, taking breaks to go and jog, taking a break to go and do some push-ups, taking a break to get our body moving isn't just good for our body, it's good for our brains. The other thing is to get restorative sleep. Our young people, their sleep cycles get all mixed up in the teenage years, and having regular sleep patterns is vitally important for neuroplasticity. It's when we're sleeping that our brain cleans house. It clears away old pathways that are weak and broken, and it helps tighten up new pathways. So we want to make sure we and our young people are getting restorative sleep, that they have a good sleep routine with a reasonable amount of sleep. And it's really important that that happens on a regular schedule because that's the best way to get the best restorative sleep. Here's the one thing that is going to give you the best neuroplasticity. Do hard things. Challenge your brain. Face your fears. Find that one thing that you absolutely hate and do it every single day. If you hate getting up early, get up early. If you struggle to learn a language, learn a language. If you're afraid to get up in front of people, start to sing, take Toastmasters, do something to challenge those thought patterns and to challenge those fears. Do hard things because that is going to give you strong neural pathways that are going to remold your brain. Parents, you probably came here today looking for help for your student. How to help strengthen their brain, how to rewire it. But you're not too old. Your brain is never too old to grow. So challenge yourself. Do hard learning. Learn a language, an instrument, maybe even learn to write essays right alongside your student. Be the example your team needs today. I would love to talk to you more about how I can help your student to defeat these old patterns and face their fears, to put aside procrastination, figure out how to manage their time, and to catch those thoughts. I do this all in a writing program because writing is often something that students really dislike or are afraid of. Reach out to me today if you'd like more information.